This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on this week's programme, we hear about plans to create a natural history museum on the island.
We still don't see a natural history museum in the near future. We don't have some concrete actions from the government or from others that might lead very soon to a natural history museum, which is much wanted by many people here.
Animal welfare in the headlines again, as the Paphiakos Animal Welfare Centre looks set possibly to close.
We're not blaming the owner, we're not blaming anybody, we just want to move forward with our work and we need help for that. Because at the end of the day, this organization was doing the job of the government all these years.
And the creator of Becky's Button is back in Cyprus, promoting events to combat gender violence.
I've been to the UK last week. I'm in Cyprus now, having events about gender-based violence. What is it? What can we do? And next week I'll be going on to Lebanon.
There was a conference at the University of Cyprus last week, and the upshot is that the experts think we should have a natural history museum on the island. Now, I'm amazed that we don't actually have one yet, because anybody who's studied the ecology of Cyprus will know that we have a huge number of endemic species on the island, both in the plant world and in the animal world. So it's a warm welcome to the programme to Professor Spiros Sfendourakis of the University of Cyprus. He's an expert in all of these things we're going to talk about. Spiros, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for asking me to join.
So tell us a bit first about this conference. I think you had somebody, especially from the British Natural History Museum, which is, I would suggest, one of the leading natural history museums in the world.
Yes, of course it is. And yes, we did have Blanca Huertas, which is a curator of butterflies, Lepidoptera, and works with several other invertebrates as well. And she offered her experience and her expertise from the British Museum, which is actually the largest and one of the oldest natural history museums in the world. We also had Dr. Magdalini Christodoulou from Biodiversity Center of Upper Austria, who also offered her own expertise, which is a bit different than the one in London, but still very useful for us.
Very useful in the sense that I guess if we're starting with a blank slate, as they say, we can do pretty well whatever we like, but I also guess that it's quite important not to make some very basic mistakes. So was that sort of thing covered at the conference?
Yes, also these things too, but the most important is that we still don't see a natural history museum in the near future. I mean, we don't have some concrete actions from the government or from others that might lead very soon to a natural history museum, which is much wanted by many people here, both scientists but also amateurs. That several of them have very important and unique natural history collections that need to be stored in a very secure way and need to be digitized and will become useful for the scientific community, and also they need to be exhibited to the public. So we still need this institute urgently. And the necessary steps that we should take in order to make it possible, may be the focus of this conference.
So what are those steps? I mean, we have to go literally one step at a time, as I say, not to make very basic mistakes that could be very costly to put right.
Yes, exactly. What we want to do actually is to convince the government to take action and consider this museum as a first priority. Because we still have in front of us a very great opportunity for funding, because as you can understand, such an institute needs a lot of funding. So we have a very, very concrete opportunity in a few years. We have these structural funds, as we call them, which is a funding opportunity that needs to be explored for this museum. But in order for anything to get included in this structural funds program, it has to have a concrete study and a concrete, let's say, design of the whole idea, in order to convince the people that are in charge of this that this is a mature project and it can be funded by structural funds. So what we need to do now is to convince the government to fund this study, which is a geological study and also architectural study, environmental study, and all this, everything that is needed to make this idea and present it as a mature project, so that it can be included in this very large funding scheme, which is called the structural funds. And it's going to start, the next round of these funds is going to start in 2028. So we need to have this study ready within 2027. So we have to start tomorrow.
We have to get a move on. It looks like there's an awful lot to do, and I imagine as well that if the government does green light this in a way, the first thing is to find a suitable venue and presumably build a state-of-the-art museum.
That's very important, of course, and there are several options. Of course, the most obvious option is to build from scratch, to build a new building altogether, which is, of course, the most expensive also option. But there are also several other options that we try to explore, of buildings that belong to the government or to municipalities and are empty, are not used today, and can be transformed into such a museum. So we have some ideas. We have proposed these ideas to the government and other agencies, and we can find the venue. There are options available now. So we need to move fast because we know what we want to do. There are options to do it, but we need someone to decide that, yes, we will go this way.
How important is it when you do get a building that, for example, I don't know much about all these specimens you will have in there, but I imagine some of them need to be kept in certain either light or temperature conditions so that they don't degrade?
Of course, there are specifications for all these things. Different collections need different conditions. But we do have this expertise, and we know how to do it.
And you can do that in an old existing building?
But it will be transformed. It will be adapted to this. We will have the skeleton of the building, but the internal spaces will have to be transformed to serve these purposes. Some parts will be the storage rooms, which will have very specific conditions. Some others will be the exhibits, which also have other types of necessary arrangements have to be made. There will be laboratories, so several departments. But if you have the skeleton of the building, you don't need to build it from scratch. So you can just adapt to the interior of the building.
Okay, and what about the actual exhibits that should go in there? You mentioned that we have quite a few private collectors. Where will you source most of these things? Because I guess that there are quite a few items out there somewhere that are ready, but I guess also that you're going to have to find some of the others. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, exactly. There are not only private, but also some collections that belong to governmental departments, but they are not collected all together. They have not been digitized, and they have not been stored in the proper conditions. So there are many such collections, both in the hands of governmental departments, and also in the hands of private collectors. So the plan is to collect all of these, or most of these. For example, the private collectors might be willing to offer these collections, or maybe we can find funds to buy them, or whatever. And then there is always a project of exchanges with other museums for specimens, which is something that happens internationally. You can collaborate with other museums, so you can exchange collections. And then, of course, there is this component, the research component of any serious museum that involves missions for collecting material and making new collections, enlarge the existing ones, etc., etc. So a normal museum should have also a very active research component of people that take care of the collections, but also go to the field and collect new material.
So it sounds as if it's going to need to be connected somehow to one of our higher university institutions. And I just very quickly, because we're running short of time, I want to ask you about, as I said at the beginning, the number of endemic species we have in Cyprus. You won't find many of those in collections abroad, I imagine, so they have to be found and preserved here in Cyprus.
Exactly. This is what I told you before regarding the exchanges with other museums. We know that several museums have very important specimens from Cyprus, so we will try to bring them back, to keep them here in our own museum, and also to collect some more material that we cannot really find in other museums, or is very difficult to locate, or whatever, or they are not in very good condition. So yes, this is something that we need to do. And of course, any such museum should be connected with the academic community, and this is why we took the initiative as a University of Cyprus, because we are the largest public university, so we think that we can play a very vital role in this initiative. And we want to be related to such a museum so that we can provide expertise and we can take over the research part of this institute, because any decent natural history museum has to have a very strong research component besides the exhibitions and the storage parts. And all major and good natural history museums play a very important role in research and in science, but also in education, in making biodiversity known to the public, in projects related to protection of nature, to management, to conservation of biodiversity. So a Natural History Museum is an institution that can play a very, very important role in all of these directions, all of these fields.
Indeed it can, and bearing in mind that we don't exactly in Cyprus have a very clean record when it comes to preserving our biodiversity, I could say, Spiros, that I wish you and your colleagues the very best of luck trying to do this. Will you keep us informed, and let's hope that the powers that be find not only the funding but the impetus to start this, because it is, as you say, so important, particularly for an island nation with so many very special creatures and species on it. Many thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much, and of course I will keep you informed on any new developments, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. Spiros Sfendouragis, who is a professor of biology and ecology at the University of Cyprus, telling us there about those exciting plans to see if we can get our very first natural history museum here in Cyprus.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
There's bad news on the animal front here in Cyprus yet again, and it seems that a lot of people are up in arms because some 2,000 animals are at risk of being abandoned because the Paphiakos animal shelter may have to close. Now, if you've been here in Cyprus a long time, you'll be very familiar with this shelter. It's been going for something like, I think, 40 years. Joining us is one of the chief volunteers, Irini Diamantopoulou, who is also in charge of the outreach programme to teach children and schools and so on about animal welfare. Irini, can you bring us up to speed with what exactly has gone on that may force you to close after 40 years?
Well, the first thing is that the land that the shelter is located at the moment belongs to somebody that wants his land back, which we understand. But at the meantime, all this job that we've done the last 40 years as an organization, we'd like to recreate another shelter and move and make a shelter that is under the law, through the law, like it's supposed to be, in a new location. Now, as organization, we cannot afford to do that. And we was asking maybe from the government or from the people to help us out continue our work.
The government surely has land that it could allocate to you. If it did that, would you be in a position to fund the building of a new shelter? They're not cheap. Or would you be looking, for example, for donations? Or why doesn't the municipality help you?
The municipality that the shelter is under is the Geroskipu municipality. It's not Paphos municipality. It's under Geroskipu. Now, I don't know whether the government is able to give us some money to start with, and then the people, I'm sure they will help. That's it mainly. We were expecting help.
You have, I think, over the years been run totally on donations and assistance from the public. What does the law say about the responsibilities of municipalities and governments towards animal welfare? Shouldn't they be playing a role?
At the moment, most of the municipalities and the community boards, they don't have even a cage or a proper lead to transfer a dog. Usually they used to bring it to the shelter so far. So all the animals we've got is from all over Cyprus, not just for Paphos.
I know that animal shelters across the island are struggling financially, and I think that the Commissioner for the Environment, who takes a very keen interest in animal welfare, has also had comments on this, saying that the authorities should undertake better obligations.
Exactly like that. Yes, they should. They should have at least cages. They should have at least prevent the whole situation. They knew that we're about to close. They knew it from a few years ago that we have to close and move from there. And they did nothing to prevent that, to help us prevent, to help us move instead of reaching that limit and that position.
You mentioned at the beginning that the landowner, I think he's been donating this land to you and letting you use it. Have you paid a rent for that, or has he been supporting you by letting you use his land?
The problem is not the owner of the land. The problem is we don't have help to move. I understand the owner of the land, because if I was at his position, I would want my land back and sell it and move forward like everybody else. Now, we're not blaming the owner. We're not blaming anybody. We just want to move forward with our work, and we need help for that. Because at the end of the day, this organization was doing the job of the government all these years. He saved the government lots of money. Lots of money. It's really huge work just to be thrown away, just like that.
Right, tell me more about all these different animals. I think you've not just got cats and dogs and so on. You have wild animals and you have bigger farm animals too, don't you?
We've got donkeys, horses, pony, rabbits, goats, hedgehogs, and dogs and cats. Sometimes we've got birds, but the birds, there is a special organization that comes and pick them up, because this is wild animals that they have to back in nature to get treated and then go back in nature.
So it's a pretty good mix, Irini. What about the veterinary care? That's terribly expensive. Do you have vets who volunteer their time to help you?
Yes, we've got Erasmus students that they keep visiting and they get trained there. But we've got a vet, that the animals they pass by from before they end up to the shelter. We pay a vet. We've got our vet.
So what's going to happen next? Would the solution be for the central government to allocate you land, and I want to know how much land you need for all these animals, and then for the municipality to partner with you in the running of it?
I don't know. I don't have a clue. I'm sorry about this. I don't know if he wants to cooperate the shelter, or if he's capable of cooperating a shelter like that.
It's not looking very good, is it?
No, it doesn't. At the moment, it doesn't, but I'm optimistic, because all these people that they were helping us 40 years, now they're still in our side. So we are still here because of all these people, and I don't think they're going to let us fall down. They know the work we're doing. They saw it with their own eyes. They know us very well. They know the effort we put every day, and the miracles are happening in that shelter every day. So I don't think it doesn't look good, but it doesn't look that bad either, I think.
All right, and I hate to end on a sad note, but if you can't solve this problem, what will happen to these animals? Some of them will have to be euthanized, won't they?
No, they will not euthanize them. We will not let them be euthanized. The animals, most of the animals we've got in the shelter, they've been there for years. And they've been used to be with the rest of the animals. They've been trained to be with the other animals. It's a lot of effort that we put on, so we're not going to just let them euthanize them. No. That's not the case, no.
But what will you do?
We're going to do our best.
But
We've got many people on our side.
Irini, what will you do with them? You're talking 2,000 animals. You can't surely find homes for all of them.
I don't know. Is the law covering that? I mean, is it under law? So you're taking animals from a shelter that you should provide to this city, let's say Paphos, or to the whole Cyprus. You should have at least one shelter legally running, and there is none from the government-wise. Okay, we are part of European Union. How on earth they're going to let us do that, even if I want to? And I was against animals, to euthanize the animals. I can't. There's no such a thing. It's not right. It's not under the law, and it's not fair. And most of the animals there, some of the animals are sponsored. It's like they have owners that they don't have the land to put them in, and they pay about their expenses. How come they're going to let this happen? They're not going to let this happen. Well, it's not on me, but they will not let this happen.
We certainly hope not. Irini, thank you very much for joining us on the programme.
All right. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to explain what's going on. Thank you so much.
That's Irini Diamondopoulou from the Paphiakos Animal Welfare Shelter. I did try to get in touch with the Yeroskipu municipality during the week, but no reply from any of the numbers that I tried to call. No response when I left messages, so I will try and keep you informed when we hear news about how that story is progressing.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Moloch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
We're going to talk now about gender-based violence. It's a scourge across the world, but in Cyprus this week there was an event that aims to tackle the problem. Jane Hung was back on the island to give some talks and hold a town hall encouraging people to come forward and discuss the issue of violence against women and girls. I met up with her during one of those events in the UN buffer zone in Nicosia, and she told me what she was doing this time in Cyprus.
Well, it's 16 days of activism, so I'm being very active, taking action. I've been to the UK last week. I'm in Cyprus now with having events about gender-based violence. What is it? What can we do? And next week I'll be going on to Lebanon.
While you were in Cyprus, you had an open meeting, I think, up in the UN, and it was attended by a real mix of people from what I could see. So what sort of feedback did you get to your talk?
It was at Ledra Palace. There were about 60 people. Very good turnout. People from, I spoke with diplomats, with people working in local NGOs and with interested parties. And the general comments, well, I can't generalise. There were many comments. I was really pleased with the response, because people asked a lot of questions, about Becky's button itself, the panic button, about how effective it's been in refugee camps, about how they could get hold of buttons, about how we could do some collaborations with schools or universities in Cyprus here.
Okay, and that's quite important, because people have found you online, but if it's not a sort of personal connection, sometimes, it gets passed by somehow, doesn't it? So the personal connection of something like these events actually makes people do something.
I hope so. There are hundreds of people who are devoting their life to raise awareness about gender-based violence, because I lost my daughter to gender-based violence. This is something that I believe very profoundly that I want to do to keep her legacy alive. I like Cyprus in terms of its proximity to Lebanon, where we have done most of our initiatives. My daughter was killed in Lebanon, but also Greece, refugee camps. It makes sense to make a splash in Cyprus, and I'm very interested to see what will be the outcome of these interventions.
I was interested to see a few men in the audience, and that's always important, isn't it? Because there tend to be some people who think, it's gender-based, that concerns women. Actually, it probably concerns men almost more than women, I think.
Men are always part of our dialogue. I like talking with men, because I never point fingers about what happened. It's more like, we women, we need strong men who protect the women in their life. Could you work with communities as well? Could you reach out on your street, call out any bad behaviour? Could you be a model father if you're going to have children? This kind of messages are very meaningful, I think, because, let's face it, it does take two, often in a case of domestic violence, but it's normally men who commit violent acts. And without them, how can gender-based violence be reduced? We want to bring more young men who want to live well and honestly in their families and try to break the cycle of gender-based violence in their families.
And that's where role models come in and are so important. And young boys really tend much more to look up and take notice of men. There's just, that's the way it is, isn't it?
That is the way. And so that's why I like working with young people, because I talk to young men and young women. At the audience tonight, there were a lot of adults, but a number of them asked questions or made comments. So I view that as success, in a way that we didn't, what I said didn't make them feel antagonistic or awkward in the audience.
Just before we finish, remind us where people who perhaps missed the event in Cyprus, although I think and I hope there will be more in the future, where can they find out more about Becky's Button and the work you do for gender-based violence?
We have a website. It's beckysbutton.org. We have an Instagram account called Becky's Button, one word, and that's where people can get up to date with day-to-day affairs. That's the area where we actually provide our news, and we do reels, we do photos. We like to engage with young people, and that's how they're communicating. We want to build a community. Those are the two main ways to get in touch with us. And please, anyone who's listening to this, reach out, say hi, say why you are interested to do what you can in your community to reduce gender-based violence.
Jane Hung talking there about Becky's Button and the work that she's been doing in Cyprus to combat gender-based violence. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.